Welcome to another episode of Radical Freedom. I'm Kurt Waldrop. It's been a while since our last video. We're going to try to start becoming a little bit more regular now. We've got better equipment. And of course, got the flashy American flag necktie. But we're just wearing this for today because we're talking about that most patriotic thing of all, taxes. Yay! What? No? No. Okay, I don't like them either. The American tax system is what is called a progressive tax. That means the more money you make, the higher percentage of it that the government gets to take. I don't know. I've never been much for class warfare. It just seems like everybody should pay the same. But that's me. I mean, the same percentage of the amount of money they make. Let's take a look at how this works, though. First off, a little background. The 16th Amendment was passed in 1913. That is what allowed the federal government to start taking part of your income away as tax. You know, much like when the mob comes and goes, "Hey, that's a nice store you got there. Be ashamed if anything happened to it." So if you don't give the government a portion of your income, something bad might happen to you. So for instance, they could take your property, they could take your bank account. They call this a levy. Yeah, they have all kinds of little terminology that avoids actually saying, we're just going to come and take it because we can. Now, while I do believe that things need to be financed, I'm just not real big on the government walking in, pointing a pistol at your face and saying, you will now give us your money. As I said, the 16th Amendment was passed in 1913, and before that, of course, we had no roads, no arm. Oh yeah, we did. We did have roads before then. Well, how did we pay for those? How did we pay for our military? There were a couple of emergency income taxes that were instituted starting in the Civil War, but for the most part, everything was paid for by tariffs, by sales taxes or the equivalent taxes on, small things. There was no such thing as an income tax. If you look at the Constitution, there was a capita tax, tax per head. So they basically counted the population of the state, and the state was responsible for providing the federal government with a certain amount of money per person. It wasn't taken out of the individual income, though. Currently, the way this works, I have to consult my notes for this. The lowest 20% of taxpayers actually pay out negative 2.2%. That means they actually take 2.2% of all tax revenues because we give it to them. They pay nothing. They actually get money from us. This is from the Tax Policy Center, and I think they know what they're talking about. The second lowest 20%, that make a little bit more money, get 1.7% of all tax revenues back to them as money, just free money. I assume that this would include people that don't have a job, that are unemployed, that have very small paying jobs like, working at the local burger stand. I'm caught up between that. On the one hand, no, I think that they should you get the money that you work for. You get a woman with 5 kids, all this other stuff. Yeah, you expect them to show responsibility, but they don't sometimes. And I don't like to see the kids suffer. So it's a quandary. It's not pleasant, but it's a quandary. Currently, approximately 50%, well, I think it's 44% of the population actually pays zero in income taxes. So according to ex-Vice President Biden, they have no skin in the game. Does that mean that maybe they shouldn't vote? Do people who make zero really get to tell the rest of us how we're going to be taxed, or vote for people that tell us how we're going to be taxed? And do politicians just buy votes by saying, we're going to raise the taxes on this group so we can give you guys more free money? Vote for me. I don't know, that doesn't seem right to me. Going on with the higher taxpayers, middle income Americans pay about 4.2% of the total revenues for the government. The second richest 20% pay 12.9%, and the richest 20% pay 86.8% of all tax revenues total. Looking into that 80%, looking at that evil top 1%, that Occupy Wall Street hates so much, the top 1% pay 43.6% of all American income taxes. And the top 0.1%, that group that I really wish I could get into, I don't see it happening, but it would be neat if it did. They pay more than 20% of all federal revenues, the top 0.1%. Think about that for a moment. It's a handful of people pay 20% of all the money that goes to the federal government. Yeah, I think that's insane. So, looking back for just a second, that bottom 43%, almost 50% of people in America that pay no income taxes. Look at the people that pay the most income taxes and tell us how evil they are. Okay, sure, makes as much sense as anything else. We don't have to do it this way, though. There are other methods. One method would be the flat tax, and one would be the fair tax. So let's take a look at them as I turn my page. So the flat tax would be every single person pays a certain percentage of all their income, the end. There's no deductions, no complicated forms to fill out. You could do it on a postcard. This is one of the plans that the Republicans have been talking about for a while, especially Senator Cruz, of having the ability to just fill out your entire tax bill on a postcard. That would be kind of nice. You could get rid of the Infernal Revenue Service. Slip of the tongue. Internal Revenue Service. And how much money would that save? All those agents, all those lawyers? Has it ever been tried before? Well, funny you should ask. Way back in 1947, Hong Kong went to a flat tax. And it worked beautifully for them. They had massive economic growth. But you might say, well, that's a tiny little city, really. I mean, it's not even a nation. And now it's part of the People's Republic of China, which makes me wonder if they've let that remain as the form of taxation there. Other nations that have done this, Macedonia did it, Bulgaria did it, the Czech Republic did it, Serbia, Romania, Hungary. You may notice all of these are in Eastern Europe. The first Eastern European nation to do this was Russia in 2001. They just did away with the progressive income tax and went to a flat tax, and the economy grew. In fact, they saw significant and immediate increases in their tax revenues. The specific numbers are in 2001, when they instituted this tax, the revenues grew by 26%, 21% in 2002, and 12% more in 2003. So it went up and kind of leveled off. Reasons for this: if you get taxed less, that means you have more to spend. The government also would tax that, perhaps. There's other taxes, corporate taxes on how much they make, all these other things. And over time, the revenue's raised. Also, it means that there's fewer people trying to get out of paying their taxes, because you don't have 57 deductions. You don't have, or maybe 5,700 deductions, I don't really know. You don't have the people they're wealthy enough to get a lawyer to fight against your having to pay income tax. It does mean that private individuals can create businesses, can buy things, which I know people hate the words trickle down. They act like there's something wrong, but it seems like common sense to me. Person A decides to buy a big house. So they're paying money to the contractor's paying money to the workers, and all of the income goes into the federal coffers. I don't know, it seems like common sense to me, but then again, I'm not a senator. Another way that we could make taxes or create tax revenue for the government would be the so-called fair tax. Now, the fair tax is just forget income tax altogether. You get to keep 100% of all the money you make. When it comes time to pay your taxes, though, instead of filling out a card and writing a check and all this, instead of doing that, you're paying your taxes every time you go down and buy a car, buy a set of golf clubs, buy a football, buy a pair of shoes, whatever. A federal sales tax. My thought is we have a constitutional amendment that gets rid of the 16th Amendment. You get rid of the IRS, you get rid of all of the revenue gathering services. I guess you might keep a kernel just to count the money, but each store owner, the ones that are picking up state sales taxes now, then do federal sales taxes. It's a little bit more work for them, but it's not tremendous, and there's software that allows them to do this. It's self-correcting, because instead of saying, well, you're a rich person, you have to pay 40% of your income, which for the top earners, it's almost 40%. Imagine every dollar you make, 40% of it is taken away from you. Yeah, I realize they have the money, but it's not right. So the wealthier individual buys a $100,000 car. If you have a 10% national sales tax, they pay a tax of $10,000, just like that. The middle class person, well, they buy a $20,000 car, and the tax is taken out, $2,000, just like that. You have someone in lower economic range, and maybe they get a $500 used car. Fine, $50 is taxes. Now, to make it easier on the really poor people, we could always do a waiver or something for them so that people who make under a certain amount of money, they have a special card maybe or something like that, and they just don't have to pay their income taxes. Or rather, their national sales tax. Another way we could do it to help things out for the lower income people is to say fresh food items, milk, eggs, bread, these things are not on this national sales tax list. Now, if they go down and buy a meal at a sumptuous restaurant, well, they pay taxes on it. If they go down and buy a really nice suit, they pay taxes on it. If they buy a car, again, they pay taxes on it. But for the basics of life, no taxes. That would help them out, and it would also allow us to have that nice, simple system. So, looking at the final kind of taxes I want to talk about today, that's the corporate income tax. The United States currently has the highest tax rate for corporations of any first world country. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, check my notes, see. The United States ranks worst with 39.1% of all money that is made, all profit, is taken out and sent to the government. So does that answer the question of why some people want to move their country to move their corporation to a country that has a lower tax rate? Again, it seems pretty straightforward to me. It's not that they're being unpatriotic. It's they're trying to save you, the consumer, money. Wait a minute. How does it save you money? It's the taxes on them, right? Dirty little secret. Corporations don't pay corporate income tax. You do. If you're buying an item that costs $1 and the government decides to stick a 10% tax on that company, the item now costs $1.10. Since it's almost 40%, it would be $1.40. Or if it was a $100 item, $140, or a $1,000 item, $1,400, and on and on and on. You see how that Chinese thing, if they have lower taxes on corporations than they do, that lowers the price on the product. It also encourages more businesses to come there. It also encourages them to hire more people because they have more money to do it with. According to the Tax Foundation, the average corporate tax in the OECD is 24.1%. Now, there are two countries that have higher taxes, corporate taxes, than we do, and that's the United Arab Emirates and Chad. I kind of don't think they're in the same sort of grouping, do you? They're not superstars when it comes to as economic powerhouses. So I do think it's time to change the tax code one way or another. That's the reason I'm making this video, is because Congress is talking about changing the tax code right now. And as usual, half of the Republicans say, yes, we must change it. The other half go, no, then we won't have enough money. The Democrats say the government cannot afford to give you any tax breaks. They can't afford to pay for it. Government doesn't pay for tax breaks. It's our money, and they choose how to spend it. The problem is they're spending it so poorly that they think that if we take any of it back, if we lower the amount of money that they do get, then the whole country collapses. Newsflash, for all you Congress people, for all you members of the Senate, and yes, for you too, whoever happens to be sitting in the seat in the Oval Office. Currently it's Donald Trump. Americans have to budget money. We have to say, we've got this much money to play with and no more. Maybe it's time that we ran our government like that. Maybe it's time to say, you know what, if we can't afford to do a study on the mating habits of the hairy-chested nut scratcher, then maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should focus on doing the things that the Constitution says we must. That would be the military, controlling our borders, and regulating interstate actually regulating interstate and foreign commerce, not creating all kinds of crazy laws that you base on the Commerce Clause, which has nothing to do with it. That's for another video, though. So, in summation, let's fix this tax thing. Make it simple one way or another. Let's lower it, because if we have lower taxes, people have more money to spend and they're happier. People spending more money then make more taxes for the government. The revenues actually go up. Let's make it fair across the board so that nobody pays a higher percentage than anybody else. And let's make the government actually be responsible for how much they spend of our money. Okay, so thank you for watching. I do hope you go out and buy a copy of my book, Radical Freedom, or, oh crap, there goes the Constitution. You can get it on Amazon. They've changed their listing, and if you're looking for it, just look for my name, Kurt Waldrop, Radical Freedom, in the search, and it should come up. Hope you subscribe to this channel. I hope you write a comment down below. Even if you don't like it, tell me why. Tell me why you disagree with me, and I will try to address that at a future time. So again, thank you for watching. Have a great day.